January 14th, 2026 meeting of the Fort Pinellas Board. If you could all please join me in standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And thank you all for participating in a great workshop session earlier. I know we introduced ourselves then, but for the purposes of the board meeting, we will go ahead and do it again, and we'll start to my right.
Councilmember David Albritton, City of Clearwater.
Chris Shear, Pinellas County Commission.
Brandy Gabbard, City Council Member, City of St. Petersburg.
Chris Johnson, Vice Mayor, City of Largo.
Tom Reed, Vice Mayor, City of South Pasadena, representing PSTA.
Anne Marie Brooks, Mayor, Madeira Beach, representing beach communities.
Still Mike Eisner, Vice Mayor, City of Tarpon Springs.
Karen Love, Mayor of Gulfport, representing South Inland communities.
Joe Ayub, Mayor, City of Safety Harbor.
Richie Floyd, City Council Member, St. Petersburg.
Councilmember Mike Menino, City of Clearwater.
Tom Shelley, Deputy Mayor, Bel Air, representing the North Inland communities.
Brian Scott, Pinellas County Commission.
Mo Franey, Mayor, City of Dunedin.
Renee Flowers, Pinellas County Commission, turning off my light.
Patty Reed, Council Member from the City of Pinellas Park.
Kathleen Peters, Pinellas County Commission.
I'm Gina Driscoll, St. Petersburg City Council, and delighted to serve as your chair this year.
Whit Planton, Executive Director.
All right, thank you. And thank you to all of the staff and to our partners who have joined us here today for this meeting. And Tina, do we have any citizens who wish to be heard on any items that are not already on the agenda for action by the board today?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have David Ballard Geddes Jr. today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Happy New Year. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. To my recollection, in order to qualify for a seat on the Forward Pinellas Board, a local individual city government as enumerated must encompass a residential base upwards of 30,000 inhabitants, respectively, seen as qualification requisite in accordance with Article 1, Section 2 of our current U.S. Constitution, adhering to the Comprehensive Interlocal Cooperation Act of 1969, enabled in Chapter 163 of the Florida Statutes. Esteeming itself on deliberately run down and purposefully blighted conditions of all of our infrastructure, Forward Pinellas, as an intermodal planning agency, is using legislative delinquency as its platform to incentivize its interlocal redevelopment strategy reflective of Statute 339.64, birthing systematic solutions to such deliberately contrived problems as its tactic, labeling its tactics as a safe streets program, and to accompany its incentivized strategic problem-solving process, legislation is intending to give rise to interlocal privatized jurisdictions, aiding and installing privatized military operations via Statute 339.175, Section 4. Forward Pinellas, as apportioned, as enumerated, is invoking individual, separate, privatized political subdivisions jurisdictionally in government, insurrecting a third-party legal entity, transferring county function and powers in Pinellas County Home Rule Charter, Section 2.04Q, creating independent special districts in Statute 189.0694, creating an open-air confinement and surveillance corridor reflective of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 in its 10-mile square jurisdictional undertaking, so-called naturalizing itself in the 14th Amendment, usurping government, taking our liberties, our properties, foreclosing our homes in Statute 189.031, Section 3B, plundering the residents and creating mortgages and foreclosing our homes with dictated levies and liens by third parties. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tina, do we have any other citizens who wish to be heard today?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and close that portion and go on to our recognitions and announcements. Due to his new role as the chair of the Board of County Commissioners, Commissioner Eggers has departed from the Flora Pinellas Board. And I would like to welcome and thank Commissioner Kathleen Peters for taking that seat and representing the Board of County Commissioners on this board. I also want to welcome Vice Mayor Tom Reed from South Pasadena, who's representing PSTA for us now. Wonderful that I have this opportunity to continue working with you here. Yes, absolutely. So with the departure of Commissioner Eggers, that actually leaves a vacant seat of vice chair on our executive committee. And so today I would like us to address that and hopefully fill that seat. Before we go to floor nominations, I want to give Whit an opportunity to give this a little bit of context.
Sure, and thank you. And welcome, Commissioner Peters and Commissioner Reed. I wanted to point the attention to the agenda item on 7D, or 7C is where we'll take up that election. But it's good to give you all a heads up now so that you can be thinking about how you might want to proceed with nominations for a new vice chair. We also need to appoint a new TMA representative, so that's also on your agenda for 7D as well. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but it's good to begin thinking about it now. The tradition, it's not written down anywhere, but the tradition is that we alternate the vice chair slot between a city representative and a county commission representative. That just has been a tradition ever since I've been here, and as you know, Commissioner Eggers was the vice chair representing the county. So take that for what you want to do with it.
I think just to clarify, I think isn't it traditionally that the chair and vice chair are
different.
We have one is a city and one is a county,
That's correct. Yep.
and that alternates. Okay, got it. All right, so some food for thought on that, and yes, Mayor Freeney.
Well, I think we talked about this a little bit, if this would have occurred. So I would like to nominate Commissioner Brian Scott for the seat of vice chair, if that's the time we're doing this.
If you could hold that until we get to item 7C, and then we can prepare to
Maybe you just said that,
address
and I
that.
didn't hear you, so, you know.
That's okay.
Thanks.
Well, I wanted to be the first one to do it, so I think there's a group of us ready to.
Well, you are certainly the first out of the gate
All
on
right,
this
okay,
one.
I withhold it.
We will, if we can just hold that thought, and we'll take it up later in the meeting. Thank you so much. And I believe we'll be recognizing Commissioner Eggers at a future meeting to thank him for his service on this board.
Yeah, we're going to bring him back in February and do that recognition.
All right, so get your roast speeches ready for Commissioner Eggers.
Actually, it's March. I'm sorry, Whit. I was coordinating with his aide on that.
Okay, all right, so next we'll go to the consent agenda. And first I'll ask if there are any board members who wish to pull any items from the consent agenda to be handled individually.
Wait, I think the lobby firm, I got questions. So that's number C. Number C. I'd like to pull that.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with that one change. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
So I have a series of questions on C, if that's okay. Sure. So, and I'm sorry I'm new, so I don't have any of your back history. So have we had a lobbyist before?
We have not.
So why do we suddenly feel that we need to have a lobbyist now?
Because the discussion about the MPO merger will require a modification of the Pinellas Planning Council Special Act, which will require a local bill that we'll need to file. And in discussions with the board, given the issues related to property tax reform, the merger, how we treat the PPC, we felt it would be helpful to have somebody who could build those relationships with us in Tallahassee and help shepherd that through the process.
Okay, so my question is, why would we spend a 3-year contract at $90,000 a year, and the county's firm could probably do the same thing? Because if we're going to merge this is important to the county. I don't see why we would spend that kind of money, first off. I got that kind of as a concern for me. I know St. Pete has a lobby firm. We have a lobby firm. And if the MPO merger is a priority on the county commission's agenda, which it would be, then our firm is going to be working that anyways. And so I just hear me out because I wasn't here, and forgive me for my ignorance of not knowing your previous discussions. So that's my thought right away, because Clearwater, I believe they have a lobby firm. And I believe every one of our cities would make this a priority on our legislative agendas, and therefore you would have the county, Clearwater, St. Pete's firms working that agenda, because it's going to be a top one on all of our agendas for this merger. Every one of us are watching the property tax bill, and every one of our lobby firms are doing what's in the best interest on that property tax. Whether it's going to be for us or for you, they're going to be doing that. And so I just don't know if it's worth spending $90,000 a year for 3 years on a 3-year commitment. So that's my first thought. That's just my first thought. And I would have said this when you guys were discussing this before. I really think, given what's going to happen, we have to be good stewards of the money that we've got. We don't know what the future has. You have very healthy reserves. And that's a great thing, because it's going to help us next year, whatever does happen, right? After November, when it goes on the ballot, whatever does happen, you have healthy reserves, and I think, we'll be strong, and then we'll figure out what'll be next. But I just don't know if it's worth that. I also have questions. I saw who was on the ranking team, and my surprise is the county canceled our contract with this firm early. And we canceled our contract with this firm because they were unresponsive. They weren't answering phone calls. They weren't answering emails. They were very unresponsive, and we were very unhappy. And so I have reservations picking this firm. And I'm surprised that Brian Lowak would not have shared that with all of you, the 3 of you that were ranking these, because I think that's a really big deal for the county commission to cancel a contract because of poor performance. I would have reservations supporting it, so there's just no way I would support that firm. Your second choice firm, I would support that firm if you still think this is something we really need to spend the money on. I'm leaning more to be more conservative and not spend the money on this and rely on the county and the city's firms that we're paying quite a bit of money to. The cities are, the county is. You add that all together, that's a lot of money to lobby for the exact same thing. And I just don't know that Forward Pinellas needs their own one that hopefully will not be working against each other. They shouldn't be working against each other, and they should be teaming up. And on this particular issue, on the MPO issue, the city's firms, both the city's firms and any of the smaller cities that have a firm, should all be united and be working together, in my opinion, with the county's firm, because I think we use different firms. So then you have a large team working on this, but I just don't know. I don't think I can support this. And these are just some, there's more reasons, but I'm not going to belabor them because I wasn't here in the past. But I certainly cannot support this firm given that we just canceled their contract. And I have a real problem with that. And I also have a problem with spending this money knowing there's going to be tax reform and we're going to have lower budgets. And $90,000 is just something I don't think is necessary since we're already doing this exact same thing with 3 other firms. So that's all I've got to say on that. But I definitely will not be supporting this for the reason that we canceled them.
All right, thank you. I want to give Whit an opportunity to respond before we go on to our next person.
Sure. And intentionally, we didn't have a lobbyist under contract for my first 10 years here because we felt like we could always rely on somebody else's lobbyist to help us out. That just really hasn't ever come to pass. We really haven't felt like there's been anybody in the local government level who has a lobbying firm who wants to offer that lobbyist up to come to bat for us, because everybody adopts their own priorities. And this seemed like a pretty important issue, unique to Ford Pinellas and the Pinellas Planning Council, that we needed to have somebody that we could manage and we could guide through the process, while also certainly cooperating and working in partnership. I did have a meeting this morning with the County Administrator, Barry Burton, and we talked about working in partnership with Johnson & Stewart, your new lobbyist, and he committed to that. So I'm glad to see that and glad to have that happen, and I do expect we can work in parallel. My understanding of working with lobbyists in the past is that it helps to have multiple lobbyists because they all have different relationships and they all can work different angles. What we liked about the Southern group is that they had Mike Moore from Pasco County. They had experience working with the city of St. Pete and the city of Dunedin, I believe, as well as the county. I did reach out to county administration before we made the selection, and I heard no significant concerns from county administration. I didn't talk to Barry until today, and he did let me know there were some concerns and why the contract was canceled. But I spoke to Mayor Freeney, and they expressed that they were thrilled with their experience with the Southern group in the city of Dunedin, and I heard good things with the city of St. Petersburg. So on balance, I feel confident with this, and I have worked with that firm in Orlando in the past. The way we went through it is that's how the scoring ranked. We had Councilmember Gabbard on the team. We had Brian Lowak, who used to manage the contract. So I felt like we did our due diligence on that front.
Yeah, Brian should have shared why it was canceled, and that's just my point on this. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and then when I brought this to the board, I said not to exceed $50,000. I think we can negotiate and have a lower level amount because we are not asking for the same type of things that our local governments tend to ask for. We're not asking for any appropriation requests, and that's usually the heavy lift on all this. It's really keeping us apprised of as legislation moves through and then shepherding our own local bill next year when we'll need to do that. The other consideration in going this route is that I've never really felt that this agency was really protected by the local government partners. We were supported and appreciated, but I felt like when it comes to the legislature in Tallahassee, we need somebody who can work every day at building those relationships, and I don't have time for that. And I just couldn't count on the other lobbyists to be given that charge on my behalf because they've got other things that they're paying attention to. That was our rationale.
Okay, so I do have one question.
Sure.
Who's St. Pete's lobbyist? Southern Group. Southern Group. And Mo, you're using Southern Group?
Yeah, we are.
So if we were merging the MPO, wouldn't that be a top priority for the city? So would you not already be paying Southern Group to be making the MPO merger the top priority? So instead, we'd be duplicating paying them here for a top priority for something that both cities are going to have as a top priority and the county will as well. And so they'll be getting paid by the city of St. Petersburg and by Forward Pinellas to lobby for the same thing. And it just, so this is where, like I said, I don't usually say much, but when I have something that I really have a hard burning thing on, I have a hard burning thing on. And I think at $90,000 a year, it's duplicating efforts if they're already working for St. Pete, and that'll be a top priority for St. Petersburg. I'm positive it will be. I know it's going to be a top priority for the county. I'm positive it will be. And then if Dunedin's using them as well, I would assume you have other priorities, yes, but I assume the MPO merger would be a top priority. So you're paying Southern and you're paying Southern, and then we would be paying Southern. And one of the top priorities would all be the same. And so you know, if it was, let's say the second one I think was Myers Group, right? So if it was Myers Group, well, then you've got Southern, you have Johnson Stewart, and then you'd have the Myers Group, and I'd say yes. Now you got a team of people, and that makes sense. But if it's Southern, and you're using Southern, and you're using Southern, and we're using Southern, then you didn't get what you just said you needed, that more people advocating for it. We don't have it. So you know, I look at the fiscal impact as something we have to look at, I think, all of us at this year on what's going on. But I don't see the advantage on that one. And I honestly, I'm biased. And Mike Moore is great, and I love that he's at Pasco County. That makes sense. It really does make sense, and he is great. But we had not 1 year of problems with Southern. We had several years of problems with Southern. And because of those, there's just no way I could buy into this concept of using Southern when they're already getting paid to make that a priority in the other one. So I won't say any more. I think I've said enough. But even to your point, had it been Myers Group, then you've got 3 different firms working it. But right now, you'd only have 2. So thank you.
Commissioner Flowers, I believe you were next.
Yeah. I appreciate the comments that have been made, but it was a lot of discussion regarding Southern Group and the county. Myself and Dave Eggers, we didn't have the concerns with Southern Group. I always received updates from them. I have the emails that they sent. So the concerns that were shared by some, I did not have those. So it wasn't an alarming thing for me. And if we take it on the context of relationships with the new lobbyists that the county has, I've not heard from them once. I've seen where they have made appointments with my colleagues. Not once have they set an appointment with me or tried to update me on anything. So whatever reason that is, I have no idea, but I'm just using that in the context that something has been presented. The other thing I want to say is, yes, the lobbyist of Southern Group is working with the city of St. Pete and the city of Dunedin on their priorities. While the merger for the MPO is a part of their priorities, it may not necessarily be their top priority. So when those lobbyists are going in, are they representing the city of St. Pete or are they representing Forward Pinellas? They would be representing the city of St. Pete. They would be representing Dunedin. So I don't think we would get the time and attention and focus that would be needed on this merger. There have been, a lot of concerns, well-addressed, well-documented concerns about the merger and whether or not there will be equal voice for the various municipalities and for the county and things of that nature. That is going to take, I believe, a lot of conversation, a lot of finessing, a lot of time, and I don't believe that using someone who has solely piggybacked to say that we're going to solely piggyback on your contracts that you have in place right now would get us where we need to be. So again, I'm not dismissing my colleagues' concerns because again, everybody has a different working relationship. I had and still have a very good relationship with Southern Group. Even though they are no longer the county's lobbyists, I still hear from them on different topics and issues, asking me my opinion on some things, and I call just to kind of get their point of view. But I will support the recommendation that has come from the committee that had a chance to review and to make a decision based on what they felt was best for where it is that Forward Pinellas wants to go. One thing I do know is we've got to do something. That was made very clear by Senator Nick DeSigley at our legislative meeting. To get up off the duff. He didn't quite say it like that. I'm just saying it like that. But get up off the duff and move this ball down the field. So those are my comments.
Commissioner Scherer.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to say I understand, as to Commissioner Peters' comments, I'm in agreement. We're duplicating efforts if we have other cities that are going to support it with the Southern Group. But more than that, as far as I know, this is not a foregone conclusion that the merger is going to happen. Last night I was reading the 2025 annual report, and it says here on page 6 that a consultant has been selected to support the creation of MPO. Well, I don't know that we voted to create, that we definitely going to do that. I have a lot of reservations. The county commission hasn't voted whether or not they're going to approve a merger of the MPO. And I just think before we start lobbying Tallahassee to create an MPO, we should at least decide that's exactly what we're going to do. As the Fort Pinellas, I would like to know from the city of St. Petersburg, that's what they want, and I'd like the county commission to vote on it. Then, if one voice, we say, yes, we're doing that, then we hire a lobbyist to go out and lobby for it. But to hire a lobbyist to start working on the creation of an MPO when that's has not been decided, I think is it's in the wrong spot.
Clarify that a little bit. The consultant that's been hired to assist with formation of the MPO was hired by the Hillsborough TPO, and they are using funding made available by the Florida Department of Transportation. They're working the MPO angle. A decision has not been made. You're absolutely right. This lobbyist that we would hire would have no role in forming the MPO. They would only have a role in helping us preserve the integrity of the Pinellas Planning Council if that merger goes forward. If it doesn't go forward, then we may still be dealing with a legislative forced merger. And I want to be prepared for that if that should happen.
That's a whole nother
That's a whole
thing
nother
that
thing,
we haven't even
right.
talked about is if we do merge, the Pinellas Planning Council doesn't exist anymore. Who's taking over? So it's a little early to hire a consultant to start working on getting our merger together when currently I'm not sure if I support a merger or not.
Right. Well, the PPC would exist, but we would have to uncouple the PPC from the MPO, which is part of the special act.
Well, my county attorney, and I may have got it wrong, but she told me that it will cease to exist. It won't be, it just cease. And we will have no planning council, so.
That's probably
But
more
anyway,
reason
I
that
don't
we
know why
need
we're hiring
somebody.
somebody to push to get this all done right when we haven't decided that's what we're doing.
Thank you. We'll go back to this side of the room. I
don't know if Councilmember Gabbard was before me.
I can go whenever.
I thought,
I'm fine.
Either way. I mean, I can
Up
go.
to you, Madam Chair.
if you, Commissioner Scott, if you two don't mind, since Councilmember Gabbard was on the selection committee and it might have some insight to share, I'd love to hear from you next. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner Peters, I completely understand where you're coming from the fiscal standpoint. Certainly always a concern, especially as we don't really know what the legislature is going to do to us, all of us. So I hear that point. But if we're getting down to just talking about the firm itself, duplication of efforts, and those sort of concerns, I'll speak maybe wearing a couple of different hats. One, as the one who was asked to serve on this RFP selection committee, I do feel as though, regardless of any past experience that the county may have had, the respondents, they were all vetted very, very thoroughly. We had a very robust discussion. Brian was very helpful in some of his kind of inside knowledge into some of these firms and his past experiences. And really, it was Southern Group came out well above all of the others. And so I feel very confident in the process that we went through to make the selection. I understand, that you had a specific experience at the county level. I don't know who your PM was for the county, who your direct contact was. I can tell you that the contact that we have here, I feel very confident with him and his ability and others that are on the team. One of the things that jumped out to me was some of the experience that those individuals who are on the team have specifically with FDOT. I think that above and beyond the merger and any conversation around the merger, obviously having individuals who have direct connections and relationships to FDOT, very, very important for us as an organization. So that was something that personally stood out to me, and was really something that kind of pushed their team above some of the others because of that relationship. Currently, I do serve as the Legislative Affairs and Intergovernmental Relations Chair for the City of St. Petersburg. We'll do our new appointments here at our next meeting, so I may not be the chair after this time, but I am right now. So I can share with you that we have had excellent experience with the Southern Group. We have constant communication. They report to our City Council. I know that they work very closely with the administration. We have had zero challenges with them. But I will tell you that when it comes down to making a prioritization list, we go through quite a collaborative process as City Council, and we all kind of come to the table with our own legislative priorities. And, you know, it is a delicate dance of what we end up with at the end of the day. And I don't know how high in that ranking specific work towards a merger would come out for us. I can't make that promise. None of us that sit here representing St. Pete could make that promise because it's actually the administration that directs our lobbyists. Would we be supportive of anything that Forward Pinellas wanted? Of course, but we would most likely not make that a top priority for us. So there is, you know, alignment in, you know, initiatives. And then there is the power of having someone shepherd an initiative, and I think that is very, very important. Prior to leaving the board for a couple of years, I was the legislative chair for this group, and it was an uphill battle. We had some really, really tough issues come along, and a lot of times it was just me and Whit, like, trying to deal with those things. Having those individuals in Tallahassee with those relationships, that they are really being the stewards for us, I find great value in. I hope we can negotiate that contract a little bit better, certainly, and we did talk about that as part of the selection. But overall, I think that the benefits outweigh the cost. And I think that overall, I hope that we'll be able to get to a place where we can get over some of our, you know, kind of situations that we've experienced personally and understand that we have a lot before us as an agency, and we need every tool in the tool chest to make sure that we end up successful at the end of the day. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Freeney.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, a couple things I would say. Appreciate the discussion, Commissioner. Well, first of all, I guess with Southern Group, and I would say that on my commission, I was the most conservative about the value of the dollar of lobbying. Yes, my former boss at the county, Alithia Stanfield, you probably remember Alithia, somebody that some of you have been around know, and she was the premier lobbyist for the county for a long time and kind of knew the ropes. But I have to tell you, we ended up going with Southern Group, and they have way overachieved my level of expectation. And I do agree, sometimes it's the person you have. Mm-hmm. And in our case, we have Laura Beamer, and she's been fantastic, and she's been extremely, you know, I could probably call her right now, and she'd pick up the phone or text me to say, hey, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. So I've been extremely happy with them. They were great. 4 of the 5 of us went up to Tallahassee last year, and they were great at weaving us through the web of what was going to make the most impact. So I mean, I appreciate you had a bad experience, so I understand that passion would be driving you, but in our case, it's been extremely positive. That's what I'd add to that. I think my other comment would be as far as sharing priorities. I mean, I wrote down, I hate to say it, sorry, Whit, but we have bigger fish to fry. When we look at our priorities list, we're not, like my commission would be like, what? You want us to go in and say this is one of our top 3 priorities when we've got this. Obviously, we'd have it on our list, but we all know, like, you got to pick your most important stuff. And I'd get blank stares from my commission to say that this would take one of our top spots to be our thing to bring up. So kind of that's my thing, but I get what you're saying. I think the scope is much more broad than the merger is. And again, lobbying can be a waste of money, and it can be, sometimes it really is good money. But sometimes what it gives you is somebody very focused on your issue and making sure it doesn't get lost in the cracks. So, you know, that's just kind of my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Wed, if you could confirm, this is a $60,000 annual contract, right? Is that correct?
I believe it's 60 is what they quoted us.
Yeah.
We identified to the board not to exceed 50,000.
Okay.
And then we asked everyone for cost estimates, and I remember they were pretty competitive. There were some that were a lot more expensive.
Right.
So I view this as still subject to negotiation.
Okay, perfect, all right. Because I had heard 90,000, but it's, at present, it's 60, but you're going to try to negotiate that down to no more than 50. Is this envisioned to be a 3-year contract or a 1-year contract with 2 one-year options?
It's a 1 year with 2 one-year options is my understanding of that. That's what I would prefer to do, and that's how we generally run our planning consultants that we have under contract, is there's an option for renewal.
Okay, so at best, we would be committing to a 1 year. So if the county commission or city or Pasco County or city, whatever, said, no, we don't want to do this, you know, we would be committed to no more than a year. And oftentimes, a lot of these lobbying contracts will have cancellation for convenience as well, which is what we ended up doing at the county. So theoretically, you know, if sometime this summer, you know, there was a negative vote on this, we could just say, hey, we don't need you anymore. So.
Absolutely, and I also want to be mindful of conflicts of interest too. You know, if a lobbyist came to me and said they are working on behalf of somebody who's doing something fundamentally opposed to what we're doing, we might have to sever ties because that conflict of interest.
Sure.
And I think there's a clause in there that allows us to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So I have a few questions, and we'll stay on that conflict of interest. Can you tell us how that's determined? And how is that agreed upon? Is it that you keep track of this very large firm's client list to make sure that there's never a conflict? I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also a lot to trust that they will come to us and make that and make that interpretation for us.
Well, I mean, I think what we are doing here is we're hiring a professional representative of our agency. And I think there's an implied professionalism and level of respect and ethical responsibility that they would bring a potential conflict of interest to my attention as executive director. And just as I need to be watching for those things to emerge on my own, I don't know that there's a guarantee. You know, there's probably a way to avoid that if you are so inclined. But I think that reputation would get around if you were not disclosing potential conflicts of interest or disclosing your client list. And I think we have every right to ask them who are their clients. So we could have that conversation. But I do rely on the professional to be ethically responsible and alert that of me. When I was a planning consultant for many years, I felt it incumbent upon me to inform one of my clients that if I was working for a local government that they had issues with. And I remember I worked for PSTA and the Pinellas County MPO, and those two agencies did not get along. And I felt sometimes in between. I had to disclose what I was doing for the county when I worked for PSTA and vice versa. And as long as you're transparent and open, then we can deal with that. It's when you're not that we have trouble. So that would be my expectation.
Okay, and you did lay out the terms of the contract so that if we have a financial concern or if the path of the MPO merger starts to shift, as Commissioner Scherer described, that it could, and we're not stuck for 3 years.
Right, that's right.
But we know that today, or I believe that today, we do need this assistance. And being a member of the TMA and having gone through many, many meetings and really diving into this a lot, I can tell you that, and also looking at how sort of the landscape of FDOT has shifted a little bit recently, I think we could really use the help. And I think it does need to be specifically for Forward Pinellas and for this, because we need that narrower focus. I really respect and understand Commissioner Peters' concerns. And most of that I can say I agree with. I'm happy to hear that Councilmember Gabbard has had a positive experience with the Southern Group as the city's state lobbyist. Unfortunately, I have not had the same experience. My experience has been abysmal, to be quite honest, when it comes to communication, when it comes to feeling heard, when it comes to follow-up. That particular relationship has failed at every level for me and for the work that I have been doing on city council and as a member of the Legislative and Intergovernmental Relations Committee. So, and it sounds like the same thing has happened with the county, where some had a good experience and others did not. I think that can really depend on the person, and I would have been quite resistant to moving forward with negotiations on this agreement if the same person was assigned to lead the team. However, I'm happy that I already know the person who's been assigned to lead the lobbying team for this, for Forward Pinellas. And I have a great amount of confidence that that person is going to communicate well, that that person is going to be very focused on what we need. I have a hard time trusting that the lobbyists for local governments will prioritize this and be able to work on this, because in those jobs, they're kind of a jack of all trades going to support whatever we tell them to. This one has a specific goal, a specific initiative that we want to work on. And looking at the people who will be involved from the Southern Group, I feel pretty good about those relationships with in Tallahassee, with FDOT, with others, that we'll be able to move forward in a way that is true to the mission of Forward Pinellas and the exploration of a merger, no matter how that might turn out. I think we're going to be in really good hands with John leading the team. One of the concerns that I have is with the Southern Group being so big, there's bound to be a conflict of interest that comes up. We're going to have to watch that. But I do feel supportive of moving forward with negotiating on this agreement. And if we can get the money down to closer to where we need it and where we originally talked about it, then I think it can work out. But this is a really big undertaking, and I think it's too much to ask for cities to basically pay for it for us. We might have a hard time selling that to our cities. So I strongly believe that we need to have our own. I have some hesitation about the choice, but from what I do know about the specific people who are assigned to this, I can be supportive of it. So that's my 2 cents. While we didn't have any mics that were on, and we do now, so we will go to Deputy Mayor Shalley.
Quickly, I would just say we use the Southern Group, and we've been very happy with the impacts. But our city, like most other cities, is going to have our top priority getting the money we need for our roads and bridges. Thank you.
Thank you.
He had his own.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Eisner. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Eisner.
It's okay, I don't get offended. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
No.
It's been a long day.
Right.
So one of the beauty that I have of sitting on my own board is I get to be Speaker 5. And what I try to do by listening, I listen to all of the input from all the commissioners that I work with, and I try to compile and make common sense out of what I've just listened to, and that's exactly what I just did here. Everybody has a great response, and I enjoy listening to all of the input that everybody just contributed. The part that concerns me the most is not whether you have a good or bad relationship with Southern Group. It's the fact that for whatever reason, no business that I've ever worked with or worked for should have no communication with anybody for any reason. At my worst case scenario, I said to myself and to my customers that I dealt with, I will please you and then lose my number, but never do I not respond. And when I listen to Commissioner Peters explaining that there was no communication, it concerns me. Even if there is somebody who today gets along with supposedly John or whoever we've appointed, you don't know what tomorrow brings. So I have a little bit of a concern on that type of relationship. So when I listen to this, it's not that we don't need the lobbyist help, but is this the proper lobbyist to appease this whole group? I don't know until we take a vote on that, but that part does concern me because as Commissioner Peters was explaining this, you just don't act like that. You just don't deal with people like that. And that is a big factor. It involves your reputation. I can understand how all the other groups have dealt well with this group, but if there should be no negative publicity from somebody. Like I said, end the contract, move on, but to ignore or to, they could decide to ignore us if they don't like what we're doing down the road. So, you know, I just am glad that I got to listen to everybody's input. And believe me, we all have opinions, we all have our own dealings, we all have our own personalities, how we get along or don't get along. But we should never be able to just cut somebody off and not listen. And that is my feeling. So I don't know how I'm going to go forward with this vote, but it is concerning, and I don't know if there's time or not time to look at somebody else who doesn't have that ability to shut somebody down. So that's my input.
Thank you. Before we go on, I think no matter who we pick, people are going to have some feelings one way or another, so I don't think we would ever get to something that's perfect. But I really appreciate this conversation. I do think, I want to clarify with Whit, on the vote today, it's to move forward with negotiations, right?
Yes, it's to authorize me to negotiate with the top-ranked firm. If I'm unable to do that, we will move to the second-ranked firm.
Okay, and then wherever that lands, you would bring that back to us for final approval with those final numbers?
Well, the amount that we would expend is above my approval level. So if it's above 25,000, for instance, unless I can negotiate them down to below
Right.
that.
So it's
I
gonna-
would have
yeah.
to bring back a contract above 25,000.
Okay, so one thing I want everyone to keep in mind as we consider how we might act, how we might move forward today is this will need to come back. This is not the final say, and I wouldn't want to have the final say without having the exact dollar amount attached to it, right? That's how we are. Would that also give an opportunity for the representatives from the firm, from the selected firm, to attend at that meeting and answer questions directly provide more context.
If that's the will of the board, for sure, absolutely. My plan would be, once we are able to get this consultant on board, is to have an introduction meeting and have a discussion about how we proceed with the full board engaged, at least initially. But certainly, if that's the desire to have that approval, we would do that.
Okay.
And ask them to be here either in person or virtually to answer questions.
Right. So, okay. All right. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So regardless of what product or service we're voting on, everybody's going to have different and varied experience with them. If we're talking about what coffee we want to drink in here, some people are going to like Starbucks, other people are going to want Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. I mean, we're all going to have different experiences. But I think what's important to point out here is that we had a process, right? We had an evaluation committee. We did an RFP. They reviewed them, they ranked them, they scored them, they've given us a recommendation, and I respect that, okay? All we're doing today is basically giving WIT the green light to go ahead and negotiate, see what you can come up with, and bring it back to us here today. So I will make a motion to approve 5C to allow WIT to engage in negotiations with the Southern Group and bring us back a contract.
Second.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Gabbard.
The last thing that I just wanted to add as part of the negotiation part of it, and we talked about this, I think, almost on every firm, was the deliverables, because as an elected official, that's very important to me. What kind of accountability? What kind of deliverables will we get? What kind of communication, reports back to the board after session, those sort of things. I asked those questions and was very open about my feelings about what that needs to look like, and encouraged WIT through the negotiation to try to see what teeth can be put into a potential agreement so that we do have some very clear, measurable reportables. So that is something I wanted to bring up again, just as a reminder of that conversation. If this passes today and then you're allowed to go ahead and move forward, I think that that piece of it will be really important to see how that works through negotiation and that you bring that back to us with that final agreement. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes, thank you. I think I understand, with the temperatures of the northern part of the state, watching what our spending is about and what we're doing, and that's going to be a heavy thing going forward, that I understand that's, some of this, but also is the lobbyist is doing this for the merger, correct? For lobbying for us, because there's 3 counties involved in this merger.
No, I want to be real clear. This is not an MPO consultant.
Okay.
They are not lobbying for the merger or against the merger or anything to do with the merger. If the merger goes forward, we've got to change the special act of the Pinellas Planning Council. They will also help us in our 25 local governments pay attention to what Tallahassee is doing with land use changes. Last year, we had Senate Bill 180, which wreaked havoc on planning activities around the state. We knew that there were problems with that bill. I had no avenue to get anybody on the phone to explain how that could undermine our activities here in Pinellas County for economic and other reasons. That bill was intended to do one thing and did a lot of very different things. So bad that we have a glitch bill now to fix it. I like to think that if we had had somebody on board, we could have articulated those concerns on behalf of all 25 local governments here. We could have at least made a little bit of headway and maybe had that bill do less damage. So it's also on things like that, all the preemptions we've had on affordable housing, and those are real concerns to all of our local governments, and there's not really a voice for that. Because I have not seen those things typically be priorities of local governments. Most of our local governments' priorities tend to be legislative appropriation requests, not don't do bad policy. And I think we're in a unique position to inform the legislators on implications of bad policy on growth and urban development and employment and the age of our population, all those things. So it's in that vein that we would bring this person on board. To address Commissioner Scherer's point earlier, we expect that there will be a vote on the merger, hopefully by April. I'm not engaging anything with the amending of the special act until probably the summer or the fall, when we know that outcome, and then we can move forward accordingly so that that can be coupled together. But if we're going to file a local bill, there's a deadline for getting that filed. And next year, it may be September, it may be October, I'm not sure when it is. But this year, that deadline was July 1st because of the session starting earlier. So that's why it needs to be this year and not next year.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor
Sorry.
Freeney.
Hold it, Renee.
I was looking at one, like, yeah. And Commissioner Scott, did you? Everyone's good? All right.
We have a motion. I just
Oh,
wanted
I'm
one
sorry.
last. Thank you.
Yes.
So just for clarification, John was not the lead at the county. So
Right.
I don't have experience with John. But just so you also know, the lack of communication wasn't with the elected officials, it with the county administrator. There was no response. No follow-up phone calls, no emails, no nothing, no response to texts. So elected officials' experience is very different than the person that's running the show. The person that was running the show for us at the county is on the team. So therefore, I cannot support it. And I just want to make that clear. There are people at Southern that I have great respect for. I do. And you know, I spent 6 years in the legislature, and I don't think anyone here has worked with lobbyists more than I have. So I've got great experience with working with lobbyists and who's good and who's not good. But I do think that I'm disappointed that Brian wasn't clear to you all that a member of this team was very unresponsive. And I think that should have been full disclosure when you were doing this, and clearly it was not. And so I felt it very important to give you full disclosure. And like I said, there are members on this team that I do know that I have great respect for. And there are members in Orlando and other areas with Southern that I have great respect for. The only other thought, and you brought it up on conflict of interest, but I can tell you when a firm goes in, and this is probably one of the largest firms in Tallahassee, and there's a reason for it. They have great people working for them. Unfortunately, we didn't have that experience. But when you go into the appropriations chair officer, you go into the Senate president or the Speaker of the House, they're going to say, what are your top 5? What are your top 5? Now, you've got Southern that's going to be asked what their top 5 is, but if 2 of their top 5s are yours and 1 of their top 5s are Mo's, are we going to bubble up? And then they have contracts where people are paying $1 million or $2 million, and are they going to be their top 5? And just in this room, you may have a conflict already with 2 cities. So that's something that I just don't know that has all totally been talked about, because your priorities, and I did make an assumption and I was wrong, so I apologize. I wanted to say that. I never should have assumed that the cities might make, if we all voted for this, that they might make that a top priority. And I shouldn't have made that assumption. I think it would be on our agenda, but it may not be our top priority. So I want to apologize for that assumption. I should not have gone there. But it's just something else to think about when you're a firm that's that big and they say, what are your top 5? The people paying them $1 million or $2 million a year just might make more that top 5 than someone that's paying them $50,000 a year. And yes, it will be October because it rotates every year when you'll be filing those bills. But it's just something to really consider and think about it. I have not changed my position, but I just want to make it clear, I'm not really knocking Southern. I had a problem with one person who happens to be on this team. And it wasn't my problem, it was our administration's problem, which is a very different story than an elected official's relationship. And when I was in the legislature, I had a problem with that same person then too. So I was not happy when I went to the county and that person was already representing us. So, and I honestly thought because of our experience in the legislature, it would have been better. But it wasn't. So, yeah, I don't want to put a black mark on the whole organization. They are great people in that organization. We just had a very difficult time with one who happens to be on this team. And I want to apologize for that assumption. I never should have made that assumption. But again, I can't support this, but that's fine. It was a great discussion. I think it was worthy of discussion. Thank you. I wasn't here before and didn't have the discussion before, so thank you for bringing me up to speed, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. You helped to make this an even more robust discussion, and I'm glad that some of us felt comfortable enough to say some of the quiet parts out loud. I am certain that the folks from this firm are listening or will listen. And if this does move forward today, between now and when it comes back, they might have an opportunity to do some reflection on what has been said here, and perhaps some changes could be made to the approach or people involved before it comes back, because I'm sure that they have the goal of making as many people on this board happy as possible. So we will see what happens, but first things first, we have to see if this is even going to move today. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments? Commissioner Scher, is yours real?
Yes, Chair. Just
Wanted to
real
make
quick,
sure.
I don't have a relationship with the Southern. I don't know if they're good lobbyists or bad. I just have no opinion at all. My entire hesitation was on timing. I thought we were putting the cart before the horse. And I've been assured that we're not going to hire them and send them up there to start changing state laws, which would change our MPO and merge us, and I'm fine with that. So as long as we're not giving them direction to merge our MPO, get started on that right away, I'm good with hiring them.
Right.
Rest assured, I want to be on the record, that is not what we're doing.
Thank you for making sure that that was clear. It's very important. Anyone else? Vice Mayor Eisner.
Got it right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a quick question. I know that when we get a survey on lobbyists or anything that we're going to do, we have an A, B, C, D. Was B as far away, and I'm not trying to test who made the decision, but was B so far away? Were they close?
I think the second-ranked firm scored reasonably well, but there was a clear separation. So it wasn't a point or two. I mean, it was pretty substantial.
Okay.
And I think the concern we had with the second-ranked firm, frankly, was their size. It was the converse, you know. They one-person shop, and they represent, my understanding is, a lot of the smaller cities in Pinellas County. So there's, you know, those issues as well. I mean, it's like everybody's going to have some connections around the county, but I felt like there was enough of a separation that I couldn't just bring these as pick one, because the committee clearly felt the Southern group outperformed.
But are we not a small group as well?
No, we're small as well, but it's and all things being equal, that's fine. But it was the newness of the firm,
Got it.
the fact that there were only 2 people identified, and would they be spread too thin was a question.
Thank you.
Sure. And I do want to just make everybody real clear. We used the county's procurement process, and they did a fantastic job. And Rodney sort of ran it, but with support from county staff. And Rodney was not part of the discussion, but I mean, he was part of the discussion, but not part of the decision. But it was a very professionally run procurement, and we really rely on the county for that. They did a great job, just for the record.
Thank you. And it's interesting you point out that the second-ranked firm performed well. There are big differences in the size, and that can be, you can see advantages and disadvantages to either one. Being involved with a large firm versus a smaller, with the kinds of goals that we have, yeah. There are ways that I could have seen a path forward with the second one as well, for sure. Small boutique firm, really strong people there. So really kudos to them, and hey, you never know, we'll see what happens. But right now, I think we're gonna vote, right? Oh, sorry, Mayor Brooks.
I'd just like to say that I appreciate Commissioner Peters' comments and her input. Having just replaced our lobbyist in our city, I can appreciate having a lobbyist that is non-responsive. So I was not on the committee that chose this lobbyist firm, but I would trust that if they do not perform, that you'll replace them. I just wanted to give my input.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for that. All right, if there's no other requests for discussion, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote, if we could please, Tina.
Commissioner Peters? No. Councilmember Reed? Yes. Commissioner Flowers? Yes. Mayor Freeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Shelley? Yes. Councilmember Menino?
Yes.
Councilmember Floyd?
Yes.
Mayor Ayub?
Yes.
Mayor Love?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eisner? Mayor Brooks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reed?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gabbard?
Yes.
Commissioner Shearer?
Yes.
Councilmember Albritton?
Aye.
Councilmember Driscoll?
Yes.
That motion passes.
All right, thank you. Look forward to seeing that one coming back. Meanwhile, we still have a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Next, we have our public hearing items. These are the PBC public hearings, which will be conducted as follows. At this time, I'm asking board members to affirm that they've reviewed the report and all materials provided to them. If you had any issues with that, please speak up. Fort Pinellas staff are available with a presentation to answer any questions if requested. Local governments are also available for questions. I will be asking proponents to speak, then opponents, and then finally any other citizens who wish to comment or ask questions. Then it will be the board's turn to ask questions. I'll close the public hearing. It will deliberate and take action. First item is item 6A1. Has everyone has read the report? If not, please speak up. Does anyone have any questions on item 6A1? We do have staff here. Scott Swearingen for questions, I think, is here. Yes. Yes, there you are. Thanks. Okay. Do we have any proponents, Tina, who wish to speak?
No, Madam Chair, we do not have any proponents, opponents, or other citizens wishing to speak on the matter.
Okay, all right, let me just skip down here, then I'll close the public hearing and ask the board for any questions at this time on this item. No? All right, in that case, I will entertain a motion for approval. We have a motion and a second for this one. Tina, do we need roll call?
No, but I didn't catch the first. Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Next, item 6A2. For this one, I just, again, want to affirm everyone has had an opportunity to read the materials. If not, please speak up. And if there is a presentation requested, we can do that at this time. No? All right. Tina, do we have any proponents to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we do not have any proponents, opponents, or other citizens wishing to speak on this matter.
All right, thank you. In that case, I'll close the public hearing and go on to board questions. Does anyone have any questions on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. We have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Next is our presentations and action items for today. First, item 7A. We have Vice Mayor Reed representing PSTA to give us the PSTA activities report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The PSTA Board met on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. We recognized outgoing board member, Council Member Gina Driscoll, for her 7 years of service to the PSTA Board. You can run, but you can't hide. PSTA also recognized retiring General Counsel Alan Zimmett for 28 years of guiding the agency. The board approved multiple items necessary to restart the Tampa Bay ferry service between St. Petersburg and Tampa, hopefully sometime this year. We approved a 5-year agreement with the cities of Tampa and St. Pete to provide the necessary operating funds for the future Tampa Bay ferry service. Approved a 5-year contract with one 5-year option to Tampa Bay Sea Taxi, Inc., Hubbard's Marina. Approved a no-cost contract amendment to PSTA's contract with Hubbard's to provide alternative docking locations, revised deadlines for vessels relating insurance and permits, and licenses required by the City of St. Pete and the City of Tampa. Additionally, approved the tentative purchase of a used San Francisco Bay ferry vessel utilizing the FTA federal grant at a total cost of purchase, delivery, and refurbishment not to exceed $2,500,000. This purchase is contingent upon successful marine surveys, testing, and trials conducted by Hubbard's and FTA approval. Lastly, the board approved 2026 officers and committee appointments. Congratulations to St. Pete Councilmember Deborah Figgs Sanders remaining as chair, yours truly remaining as vice chair, and Pinellas Park City Councilmember Patty Reed as PSTA treasurer on their officer roles. So congratulations to all those. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Vice Mayor Reed regarding the PSTA activities report? No? All right. In that case, thank you so much. We'll go on to regional activities with Whit.
Okay, I'll touch on a few things. Topic of conversation that we've already had a little bit about the regional merger. But before I get to that, I want to mention that the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance is the larger collaboration of MPOs from Citrus County all the way down to Sarasota County and East Polk. We are developing a cost-benefit analysis tool. Chelsea is leading that effort with some consultant support so that we have a consistent methodology for measuring the benefit cost analysis of transportation projects, which will help us align our transportation priorities across the region, or at least speak in the same language on those. The cost-benefit analysis is something that the US DOT is promoting in its evaluation of transportation spending projects nationally. I also wanted to mention that the SCTPA adopted regional transportation priorities as part of its meeting in December as well. Those were recommended for approval by the TMA Leadership Group, which is the subcommittee comprising the 3 core counties of Pasco, Hillsborough, and Pinellas County. Speaking of the MPO merger, next steps for the merger are to continue the dialogue that we began among the principals at the meeting November 14th. Generally speaking, everybody felt that that was some very good discussions, some very candid, maybe cathartic discussions, and a desire to keep that flowing. We are inviting all of the same representatives, all the county commissioners, all the Tampa City Council members, and all the elected officials in the region who want to come to the February 13th TMA Leadership Group meeting. It'll be held at the Tampa-Hillsborough County Expressway Authority in Tampa, and we will be presenting options for what the regional governance structure would look like in terms of governing board members, the role of transit providers, and the role of small cities and how they have a say in the structure of the regional organization. I spoke with our county administrator this morning about putting us on the agenda for a future joint Board of County Commissioners meeting, likely in March. We probably would let that be an update and to encourage each of the county commissions and the Tampa City Council to place this regional merger topic on the agenda for a vote, potentially as early as April. The vote would not be a binding committal, but it would be a non-binding resolution of support to continue advancing the merger concept into further detail. If there's no support for advancing it into further detail, then we would essentially close the process of merging at that point and pivot to what Plan B might look like, which could be a strengthened regional coordination process of some shape. I do believe that the Florida legislature intends to have the elected officials meet together regularly and not just have staff do a better job of coordinating. So it'll be interesting to see how the legislature would respond to that scenario. I have no idea how they would. We also have a workshop planned with the Suncoast League of Cities. I've met with them twice already. This will be a third workshop to give them an opportunity to have a say before we take any formal votes. The idea of having the formal votes in February is to not spend unnecessary time on something that's not supported. If it is supported at that point, like I said, that takes us into the next level of detail of how the merger would come about. We have to conclude this consulting contract by December of 2026, and then we would be essentially then working any policy or legislative terms to move that separation forward, which is why we had the discussion we just had. I guess the last point I'll say about the regional merger is that, it's really important to have a champion. It's really important to have a champion in each county. We believe the legislature has been the champion for this for a number of years, but I remember going to the legislative delegation meeting and nobody really stepped up as forcing the issue. So I assume that Senator DeSegli is still interested in making this happen, and there may be some additional efforts, down the road. But the main thing we're going to need to do is make a commitment or not on our own. And then I think it then opens the door for whatever happens next. But our intent is to continue the dialogue, to make sure that people's concerns and questions are raised. I think it would be very helpful for the Florida Department of Transportation Secretary Hall, to come and speak to the group about funding levels, because there is a base level funding commitment that the department is required to meet in statutory language to ensure equity among all counties. That may address some concerns about being left behind or left out of a future merged MPO. Finally, the last little point is how we handle the small cities is really important here in Pinellas County because we have so many of them. And the one option, at least that I would like this board and others to consider, is making Forward Pinellas or the Pinellas Planning Council as a formal advisory committee to the regional MPO, bringing that land use transportation linkage forward at the regional level for all things involving Pinellas County, and then keeping that voice of our smaller local governments engaged in the process and maybe enabling the PPC to elect one of their representatives from the sub 50,000 population cities to have a voting voice on that regional MPO. Remember, Pinellas would get about 8 votes out of the 23 elected officials, and the consensus so far has been for 2 seats to be awarded to the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority and the Tampa Port Authority. And those would be staff, executive director type positions. They tend to vote regionally and think regionally, so that was the rationale for that. Hillsborough County gets 11 seats in this formula. They don't have 11 county commissioners, and they only have 3 cities, so they need to figure out how they apportion that. So each county would figure out the small city representatives. So still a lot of dialogue to go. I encourage you to keep February 13th on your calendars. You'll get a formal calendar invitation if you haven't gotten one already, and that'll be the next opportunity to really weigh in and have some good discussion. I think that's enough for now. It's a process, and I just thank you all for your patience. I do feel like we've made good progress. It does sometimes feel like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but that's the nature of the beast.
All right, thank you. Who has questions about this one? Councilmember Albritton?
Oh, sorry.
You tricked me.
We're going to have another device to say I want to speak.
Councilmember Menino.
Madam Chair, I appreciate you. I went, it seems like it's been a long time now, when we had the workshop recently, and learned a lot through it. Kind of left, honestly, disappointed a little bit, and that's just being honest, and not necessarily in the idea behind it. You said there should be a champion other than the top of the state of Florida. I didn't really notice any champion in different rooms really pushing any certain agenda of gluing this thing together. It just seemed like a lot of different ideas, a lot of moving parts. What was glaringly noticeable was the absence of Hillsborough County and Hillsborough cities. I think there was only one representative there, if that. There's a,
We had Temple Terrace there, and we had Tampa City Council. I don't know about Plant City.
yeah, so maybe two.
Two from Tampa.
Yeah, that doesn't work. There was a lot of discussion on structure and what it could look like. To me, the biggest challenge to overcome is the dynamics of trust. And I didn't really see much of that being built or identified. I don't know if necessarily, it almost seems like you need happy hour gatherings and get together and get to know each other, because there were so many different dynamics. I mean, in Pinellas County, our concern seems to be some of the smaller municipalities having a voice heard. Pasco County, we didn't recognize that. It seemed like the individual municipalities expect their county to make most of the decisions for them. That was a different dynamic. And then Hillsborough, gosh, they have their own trust issues with distrusting themselves, not even all of us getting together, but they have their own issues. So I left with the feeling of there's a lot more than just building the structure of this and pulling together. There's a lot of dynamics of building a trust. And until we really get a true champion from each place that really works together and puts little building blocks of trust together, this is going to be an extremely heavy lift. And that's not to throw shade on the process or anything, but that's just how I left that and walked away with that kind of taste in my mouth.
I think that's a great observation, and I share that. I think it was very noticeable that Hillsborough County Commissioners were not there. That's been a challenge. That's part of what I talked with Mr. Burton about this morning, and he's going to talk to their county administrator about that as well. You know, I do think that trust is built over time. It doesn't happen quickly. It happens incrementally. It happens through regular meetings, maybe different kinds of meetings like you suggested. To me, you're going to have to start meeting regularly for trust to really happen. And I don't know if trust happens before or after you form the board, but I also don't want structure to get in the way of what you need the organization to do. If you start with structure, maybe that's not the best place to start. Maybe you start with building trust and building a sense of partnership and collaboration. You know, Tampa Bay lacks more than just a regional MPO. There is no regional economic development organization for Tampa Bay either. That's been noted. The Tampa Bay EDC used to be the Greater Hillsborough EDC. The Chamber of Commerce used to be the Greater Tampa Chamber of Commerce, and they became the Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of little things like that that have rubbed people the wrong way over time. And only through meeting together and making decisions together can you build that trust, I think. I don't know what comes first, but I don't think we're building trust right now without those mechanisms. But Tampa Bay Water has proven different. We've built some trust through Tampa Bay Water. If you've been here long enough, you know the water wars of the 1990s and 2000s, and that's been largely resolved. So I have hope that this region can pull it together. When you go to Orlando and you talk to the officials there, there's a Greater Orlando Economic Development Corporation. There's a single regional MPO serving the 3 counties, and they are absolutely bringing home large-scale transportation projects to move their region. Traffic stinks in Orlando, but they're at least addressing it and dealing with it. You know, we're not Orlando, and we shouldn't try to emulate in Orlando in every way. It's a very different region in some respects. But I had dinner the other day with the city manager for the city of Maitland, which is 13 or 17,000 people. I asked him, I said, do you feel heard? Do you feel like your voice is respected in the Metroplan Orlando? Absolutely. They come to our defense, they work on our behalf, they finish projects that the DOT couldn't finish for us, and they deliver. And you know, to hear that from a 13,000 population city makes a big difference. I think we'll get there. It's gonna be tough. What I don't want to happen is for it to be forced on us by Tallahassee. But even if we don't get a vote and Tallahassee does try to intervene, I think we've laid really good groundwork for maybe some good legislation. I mean, that's all we can hope for. Here's my bottom line on this. If it doesn't happen this year or next year or the year after, it's coming back. It's coming back in 5 years or in 10 years. I mean, when do we tackle it?
Yeah, it makes sense. Just an idea that if we, before we even have the next workshop, we know one of the challenges is finding a presence from the other side of the bay. Maybe schedule the meeting on the other side of the bay. And I'm not excited to drive over the bridge as anybody else is, but maybe find a way to make it a little more convenient for them not to show up, or a little more convenient for them not to be there. Listen, it's in your backyard and it's at your HOA meeting, so you might as well be there. Yeah, and I appreciate that. The time frame was so long between now. This is the first opportunity we've had to have that discussion. I know Mayor Freeney and I were in that same group, working together, getting straight A's on all our worksheets and stuff, but it was definitely eye-opening to both of us, and I think we both kind of shared very similar thoughts. Can't speak for her, but.
So Mike, was that an invitation to your house, at your happy hour to your house, to get everybody together?
I'm on this side of the bay. If we
Commissioner Scott, did you?
I was just.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna give him a hard time, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been very interesting trying to figure out the Hillsborough aspect of this. There was one who attended the Orlando session.
We did.
So that was encouraging, I guess.
There's definitely, between the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County Commission, there's a chasm there.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
good Lord, I mean, that's a
We
Grand
hear
Canyon.
about it pretty much every TMA meeting.
Yeah.
I did have a question. You mentioned that the Port of Tampa and Tampa International Airport would have seats on this because did you say they're considered regional entities?
That seems to be one of the positions that Hillsborough County is insisting on, is that those entities have a vote.
Do they have, so
They vote now on the Hillsborough TPO board, along with the Expressway Authority, HART, and the Planning Commission, and the school board.
Okay. But does does the port and the airport have boards?
They have governing boards, but they have their staff members vote.
Okay. And are there, so if it's considered regional, are some of those members from Pinellas or Pasco?
That's another issue that we could bring up with the legislature. The Aviation Authority and the Port Authority, to my understanding, do not have any Pinellas or Pasco representatives. They, I think, have the mayor of Tampa and a Hillsborough County commissioner. Might vary for a little bit on either board. And mostly they have gubernatorial appointees. I don't know it's enabled, but that would be something, that issue has been brought up by a number of folks, that if they're going to have voting authority, then their board should reflect the region.
Right. Yeah.
That would be another thing that we might want to look at legislatively.
Yeah, I think having some official definition of regional and a threshold that you have to hit before you can call yourself that makes a lot of sense to me. Deputy Mayor Shelley.
Perhaps we could consider being a little bit flexible, allowing Tampa or Hillsborough elected officials to represent the Port and the Aviation Authority for the first 3 or 4 years, so they understand how overweighted their position is, with the ability to go to staff later. Thank you.
Interesting, thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Oh.
Anyone else?
Gina, sorry, Chair.
Yes.
Just because Mike brought me into it, I will just agree with everything he said. I have to say, I left the day of that collaborative lab, and I did not put it up there as a good use of my time. So, just putting it out there. I agree with everything.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the structure was a little limiting, but the dialogue was good. So it's kind of been characterized as, one city council member said that was the worst meeting she ever went to, but it was the best discussion she's ever had. And I think that was probably an interesting observation.
I think our problem was we were in a different room of where the challenging discussions were being had.
Right.
We were a bit in the Disney World room, it seemed like. I think Councilmember Gabbard, you were in the county commission room, and from what I hear, the discussions were far more fruit-filled and challenging, which is needed at this point, than ours were. So there might have been a different productivity feeling when we left different rooms, but.
Yes, Councilmember Gabbard.
Since it got brought up, yes, somehow I got the happy accident of being the lone city council member in a room of, well, it was Tampa because they have a vote, and the 3 counties. But Hillsborough County, to your point, was not there. So it was, I almost felt very much like it was a therapy session for the Tampa City Council members. And I think that myself and Commissioner Scott and Commissioner Eggers and Commissioner Starkey were very much trying to get them to understand, like, we hear you, we understand your challenges. Just because you are not getting your challenges heard by your friends at the Hillsborough County level, look at this as an opportunity to see where there could be some cohesion with other partners that are going to be hopefully on this merged board with you. They have a lot of PTSD from what they have experienced with Hillsborough County. And so, if anything, I hope that the Tampa council members left realizing that this merger is probably best for them, because I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to align. They kept talking about their needs as an urban area and not feeling like those needs as an urban area are being recognized by Hillsborough. I said to them, well, I mean, we're St. Petersburg, like we are an urban area, and so let us work together with you, let us help you. And so while I left there feeling like, oh my God, I don't think this is gonna happen. At the same time, I hope they left there realizing they have more allies than just looking in their own backyard. And so I'm trying to look at that experience with a silver lining, but yeah, it was very eye-opening. A little bit disheartening, but I just hope that they can kind of take it for what I see it is as an opportunity for them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Well, if you're interested in this and you'd like to find out what Tampa's thoughts are after, you may consider coming to the next TMA meeting, which is on February 13th. It is in Tampa. So, you know, but yeah, it's, that's coming up, and we'll be talking about TMA positions in just a minute, so.
Perhaps we need a happy hour afterwards.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's like 9:30 to 11:30, but I'm sure when it finishes, it'll be 5 o'clock somewhere. So, they really are interesting. I find the meetings interesting anyway. Does anyone else have anything on that or any other regional activities for WIT's report? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the election of a new vice chair. As I mentioned earlier, with the departure of Commissioner Eggers, we have an opportunity now to replace that seat, and I will recognize Mayor Freeney.
Well, the only downside I could think of was that you won't be sitting by me anymore. So, but regardless of that, I move to make Commissioner Brian Scott the vice chair of Fort Pinellas.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and multiple seconds. Tina, did you get one?
I was one, he was one, they were one.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Or Tina, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we do not. We also didn't have any when we voted about the lobbyist either, for the record.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, we have a motion and a second for Commissioner Scott to be Vice Chair of the Florida Pinellas Board. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and congratulations, Vice Chair Scott. Next would be the appointment of new TMA Leadership Group representative. Again, with the departure of Commissioner Eggers, we have another open spot, and that is one of the official spots on the TMA Leadership Group. I am part of that group. I believe it's right now me and Councilmember Floyd.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Scheer.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for Commissioner Scheer to be the next TMA Leadership Group representative.
Was the
Any
second,
question-
I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair. Was the second Commissioner Flowers?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on this one? Tina, do we have any citizens who wish to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Congratulations, and thank you for being willing to serve on this important group. Okay, next is the director's report. So Whit, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Okay, legislative update. Haven't had much time yet to get through it, but there's been a lot of movement in Tallahassee. Just wanted to highlight a few things. I mentioned earlier Senate Bill 180, the glitch bill, which has been filed by Senator DeSegli. It's Senate Bill 840 is the name of the new bill. It sunsets the preemptions that impact Pinellas County at an earlier date, June 30th, 2026 instead of 2027, which would have been October of 27. For future hurricanes, it amends the prohibition of more restrictive or burdensome regulations to apply to only those that interfere with a property owner's ability to repair or reconstruct damaged buildings. The bill has been referred to 3 committees and has passed 1 so far. There are several land use exemptions intended to encourage housing. Senate Bill 48 by Senator Gates requires local governments to allow accessory dwelling units in all single-family districts. That's passed 1 committee of its 3. Senate Bill 948 would create the Florida Starter Homes Act. It would limit a local government's ability to impose specified minimums on lot size, minimum setbacks, height, intensity, and parking requirements, and prohibits local governments from imposing limits on density on qualifying residential lots. It's been referred to 3 committees. Senate Bill 1342 is the Transit-Oriented Development Act. It's been filed by local representatives, Senator Roussan, Representative Cross. It would allow higher intensity mixed uses near permanent public transit stops, which are defined as bus rapid transit or rail. I won't get into the details of it, but it's a significant upzoning of density preempted by the state. Transportation bills. House Bill 543 and 937 focused on the timing duration of the yellow traffic phase, signal phase. And it's a traffic signal modernization grant program. Senate Bill 1220 is a pretty wide-ranging bill dealing with shared use trails, requiring them to be physically separated from vehicle traffic, and requiring DOT to prioritize projects that minimize trail gaps. House Bill 243, you might be interested in, defines e-bikes of 750 watts or 28 miles per hour to be considered electric motorcycle, and adds crash report requirements and new safety measures for operating e-bikes. It's been referred to 3 committees. We've looked at this bill. It seemed to have some common sense provisions for who can rent one, what age you have to be, those kinds of things. And then House Bill 1093 and Senate Bill 1362 provide a statewide framework and funding formula to support advanced air mobility. It authorizes FDOT funding for vertiport projects of up to 100% of project costs when no federal funds are available, and up to 80% of the non-federal share when federal funds are available. So you can see this has become a major state priority. I'm not aware of too many other partnership funding programs like that with that level of state funding support. It's been referred to 3 committees, and you may have heard the announcement that the state has opened up a test facility in Polk County at the SunTrax location. I'm not going to go over the property tax bills. There's a bunch of them. Rodney did a pretty good job covering all of those. And that's my report on the legislature for now. It's probably going to be different tomorrow. But stay tuned.
'Tis the season. Any questions on that one? Okay, did you have?
The next item is just the minute in focus. It's our local, Live Local Act Affordable Housing Dashboard. This meeting's gone on a pretty long time, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but there's a nice little write-up here and a link you can click on to the Affordable Housing Dashboard. I do understand that we've had our first project application in the coastal high hazard area in Oldsmar. We were able to say we had none in the coastal high hazard area. Now we do have an application for the city of Oldsmar. But the dashboard has a lot of good information on the production of housing supply and how much of that has been permitted or approved under the Live Local provisions. So again, just good reference and good work on the part of our staff, and that's my report. There's a link in the agenda. If you click on the very top of the summary, it's the Live Local dashboard. It's highlighted in blue. Just click on that, and it'll take you right to it.
Wait, if I could, when you look at the dashboard, when you click on that link, I'm concerned that percent of land use impacted, over 62% of it is industrial. That's a real issue for future jobs. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's why we did the Target Employment Industrial Lands update to give local governments a little more flexibility in allowing mixed uses within those industrial areas, and we are hopeful that that will strengthen those target employment areas that should remain target employment areas, and that maybe what we're seeing is those industrial areas that aren't really viable as industrial areas. That's further analysis still needs to happen on that. Good point, though.
All right, anyone else? Okay. You don't have any upcoming events?
Yes.
You always have like 5.
There are upcoming events on the agenda. I'll draw your attention to that as soon as my agenda comes back. It's taking a minute. Do you want to highlight those? Oh, here we are. I'll get it. So we have the, coming up on January 20th, an important project that the Florida Department of Transportation, they're looking at the I-175 corridor. It's a project advisory group meeting. Members of the public are encouraged to attend. I know, Mayor Love, you were interested in attending that. That is open to the public. The department will be presenting some improvement concepts to the Surface Street network around I-175. We have the MPO Advisory Council meeting in Orlando on the 28th. And we have a presentation on the federal legislative landscape from the National Association of Regional Councils at that meeting. And then the next day, we have the Florida Metropolitan Planning Partnerships, where I will be leading a training session on land use and transportation for the other MPOs and DOT legislative or MPO liaisons around the state. And then finally, the TMA Leadership Group is February 13th at the Tampa-Hillsborough County Expressway Authority. Be there if you want to have a say in the next steps on the regional merger. That's it.
All right, thank you. Does any board member have any additional discussion for the group? Any final thoughts? I do want to recognize that City Council Member Floyd was elected as Vice Chair of City Council for this year. And so, yes. So congratulations on that. It's just one more title I have to remember in these meetings, but wanted to make sure everyone knew that you were elected unanimously by your peers to hold that, and I'm very happy about it, so congrats. All right, thank you. Well, seeing as we have no other requests for discussion, thank you everyone for a great day. This meeting is adjourned.